Welcome back to Void of Fears. Before we jump into today's story, I've got to ask for a quick favour. If you could smash that like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It seriously makes a huge difference. YouTube's algorithm loves that stuff, and it pushes my videos to new viewers who might dig these stories too. I really appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to do that. It means the world to me and helps keep this channel growing. Alright, enough of me rambling. Let's dive into today's story. For decades we've looked at Jupiter as a gas giant, but what if something terrifying lurks beneath its stormy surface? Scientists have just detected an ancient rhythmic heartbeat from the void of Jupiter, and the implications are chilling. Could this be the sound of something awakening? Something that has been dormant for eons, with terrifying consequences for our universe. 4.6 billion years ago, Jupiter formed from the cosmic dust of our infant solar system. For all of human history, we believed it was simply a massive ball of gas and liquid. We were catastrophically wrong. The sound you're about to hear was recorded by NASA's Juno spacecraft on March 17th, 2024. It originates from deep within Jupiter's interior, from a place where nothing should be able to exist, let alone create organized sound. This is the pulse. This is what's been beating down there for billions of years, hidden in the crushing depths where pressure exceeds 3 million Earth atmospheres and temperatures reach 36,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the sound of something ancient, something vast, something that was there before humans walked upright, before the dinosaurs, before Earth had oceans. And 3 years ago, we finally heard it. Dr. Elliot Crane discovered it on a Thursday night in March, alone in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory's analysis room. He was 48 years old then, a senior planetary magnetosphere specialist who had dedicated 23 years of his life to studying Jupiter's magnetic field, the strongest magnetic field in the solar system. He thought he'd seen everything Jupiter could throw at him. The discovery happened at 11:34 p.m. Pacific time. Elliot had been reviewing routine telemetry data from the Juno probe, the same kind of analysis he'd performed thousands of times before. He was tired. His coffee had gone cold hours ago. He was about to shut down the monitors and go home to his wife Lisa when he noticed something buried in the magnetometer readings, an anomaly, a rhythmic oscillation that shouldn't have been there. His hands froze on the keyboard as he isolated the frequency. The colour drained from his face as the speakers filled his lab with a sound that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "I've heard electromagnetic interference," Elliot would later say in an interview, his voice hollow and distant. "I've heard plasma waves, radiation bursts, solar wind interactions. This was none of those things. This was organized, deliberate, alive." The pulse originated from approximately 11,800 miles beneath Jupiter's visible cloud tops, deep within the metallic hydrogen layer, where pressure transforms hydrogen into an exotic conducting fluid, where nothing we know of could survive, let alone function. Yet something was there, and it was beating. One pulse every 4.31 seconds, unwavering in its precision, like a heartbeat scaled up to planetary proportions. Dr. Patricia Lindholm was the first person Elliot called. She was a senior acoustic physicist from MIT, a specialist in acoustic signatures who had spent 30 years analysing everything from whale songs to seismic events to industrial machinery. He sent her the raw audio file at 1:47 a.m, unable to wait until morning. Her response came 20 minutes later, just 3 words: "Call me immediately." When they spoke, Patricia's voice trembled with something Elliot had never heard from her before: fear. "I've analysed the waveform," she said. "Elliot, this has biological markers. The frequency modulation, the harmonic overtones, the characteristics of organic cardiovascular systems, just scaled up impossibly large. If I didn't know this was coming from inside Jupiter, if you played me this blind, I would have sworn it was organic. I would have said you'd discovered a living creature. Elliot sat in silence, phone pressed to his ear, listening to the pulse play on repeat through his headphones, a profound subsonic thrumming that he could feel in his chest as much as hear, like standing next to an enormous heart. "How long has it been there?" Patricia asked. That was the question that would consume Elliot for the next 9 months. The question that would eventually cost him everything. He spent the next 16 hours compiling his findings into a preliminary report. He barely slept, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, checking and rechecking his analysis. By 6:47 a.m. on March 18th, he had a document that would change everything. He sent it to his immediate supervisor, Dr. Lawrence Garrett, JPL's Planetary Science Division Director, a man Elliot had known for 15 years, a friend. Lawrence read it in his office that morning. When he called Elliot in for a meeting an hour later, his face was pale. "You're telling me there's a heartbeat inside Jupiter?" Lawrence's voice was tight, controlled. "Elliot, have you slept? When's the last time you took a vacation?" Elliot leaned forward in his chair, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. "I need you to verify it," he said. "Before you dismiss this as instrument error or sleep deprivation, I need you to authorize independent analysis. 3 teams, let them look at the data blind. If I'm wrong, I'll take a month off. But if I'm right..." Lawrence stared at him for a long moment, then picked up his phone. Over the next 16 days, 3 independent teams analyzed the signal. 1 from JPL, 1 from the European Space Agency, and 1 from JAXA, Japan's space agency. Each team reached the same conclusion independently. The signal was real, consistent, and inexplicable. On April 3, 2024, senior NASA officials gathered in a classified briefing room to discuss the findings. The conversation was hushed, urgent, and ultimately decisive. The discovery would remain classified until they understood what they were dealing with. No public announcement, no press release, nothing that could cause panic. Dr. Naomi Fletcher, NASA's deputy administrator, would later defend that decision. "We weren't trying to hide anything from the public," she said in an interview months afterward. "We simply didn't want to cause panic over something we didn't understand. In retrospect, that may have been a mistake." But for Elliot, the secret had weight. It pressed on him every waking moment. He began keeping a personal journal, documenting his thoughts and observations in a leather-bound notebook that never left his side. His entry from April 7th, 2024, read, "I've listened to the pulse 247 times now. I've started timing my breathing to it without meaning to. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I can still hear it, even though I'm miles from the lab. Lisa asked me today if something's wrong. I didn't know what to tell her. How do you explain that you found proof of something that shouldn't exist, and that every time you hear it you feel like you're being watched by something ancient and patient and utterly alien?" The scientific community's response was one of controlled panic. Nobody wanted to say the word that hung in the air between them all, the word that would make it real: life. Because if this was life, it meant everything we thought we knew about the universe was fundamentally incomplete. Dr. Raymond Vasquez was a geophysicist from Caltech, brought in to provide context on Jupiter's interior. He gave a presentation that left the assembled scientists in stunned silence. Jupiter's interior is a nightmare landscape. The outer atmosphere is hydrogen and helium, clouds of gas swirling in storms larger than Earth. Deeper down, the pressure increases until hydrogen becomes liquid. Deeper still, at the depths where the pulse originated, hydrogen transforms into metallic hydrogen, a strange conducting fluid that only exists under unimaginable pressure. At 11,000 miles down, the temperature reaches 36,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 6 times hotter than the surface of the Sun. The pressure is 3.4 million times Earth's atmospheric pressure. You could drop a solid titanium sphere down there, Raymond explained, his laser pointer trembling slightly as it traced Jupiter's interior on the projection screen, and it would be crushed to the size of a marble in seconds, then vaporized. The conditions are beyond extreme. They're hostile to anything we'd recognize as structure, as form, as life. He paused, letting that sink in. Yet something is there, and it has been functioning for billions of years. Computer modeling revealed that the pulse was emanating from a region of unusual density, a mass approximately the size of Earth suspended in the metallic hydrogen ocean, not at Jupiter's core, but floating in the depths at a specific location. It's not sitting at the bottom, Elliot observed during one late-night analysis session. It's not anchored to anything. Whatever this is, it's maintaining its position deliberately in one of the most violent environments in the solar system. By mid-April, NASA had secretly authorized an extended mission for the Juno spacecraft. The probe had been orbiting Jupiter since July 4th, 2016, studying the planet's composition, magnetic field, and formation history. Now it had a new objective: get closer, find out what else was down there. Flight Director Helen Torres coordinated the orbital adjustments from JPL's Spaceflight Operations Facility, a career professional who had worked on everything from Mars rovers to deep space missions. She had never seen anything like this. We're going to take Juno closer to Jupiter's magnetic field lines that connect to the anomaly's location, she explained to the expanded research team. If there's anything else down there, we'll find it. Elliot now led a team of 19 specialists, planetary scientists, geophysicists, acoustic analysts, and notably 2 biologists. Their presence was never officially explained, but everyone understood what it meant. They were preparing for the possibility that this was life. In May 2024, Juno's enhanced magnetometer suite detected the secondary anomalies: temperature fluctuations in the metallic hydrogen layer, precisely synchronized with the pulse. Each heartbeat was accompanied by a thermal wave that radiated outward. The temperature variations were minuscule, 0.003 degrees, but perfectly timed. Even more disturbing were the localized gravitational distortions, microgravity waves that propagated through Jupiter's interior like ripples on a pond, emanating from the source with each pulse. Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched the data streams in real time from her workstation. She was a xenobiologist brought in as a consultant from the SETI Institute. She had spent her career studying the possibility of life in extreme environments, extremophiles in volcanic vents, organisms in Antarctic ice. She thought she was prepared for anything. She was wrong. The energy expenditure required to generate these gravity waves is astronomical, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as she studied the readouts. Whatever is doing this, it's not microscopic. It's not small, it's vast. Helen Torres was in mission control at 2 a.m. when she first saw the gravity wave propagation in full detail. She had been at NASA for 40 years. She had helped land rovers on Mars. She had guided spacecraft to the outer planets. She had seen wonders that most people could only dream of. But watching those gravity waves pulse outward from Jupiter's depths, perfectly synchronized with that ancient heartbeat, she felt something she had never experienced in her career: primal, instinctive dread. It's as if something down there is breathing, she said quietly to the night shift crew. Each pulse moves Jupiter's interior, actually displaces matter in rhythm. In 40 years of working spacecraft missions, I've never seen anything like this. By June, the team had shifted focus to understanding the signal itself. Audio engineer Michael Garrett joined the investigation. He was a specialist in acoustic forensics who had worked on everything from aircraft black boxes to submarine sonar recordings. He approached the pulse with professional detachment, treating it like any other audio analysis job. That detachment lasted exactly 3 days. When Michael isolated and enhanced the pulse using sophisticated filtering techniques, he discovered something that made his hands shake. The heartbeat wasn't a single frequency. It was a complex harmonic structure, multiple layers of sound nested within the primary pulse like Russian dolls. When he slowed the audio down by a factor of 10, subsonic components emerged, frequencies below human hearing range, 4 Hz, 7 Hz, 12 Hz. They matched no known geological or atmospheric phenomenon. More unsettling were the physical effects. When Michael played the pulse at normal speed through high-end audio equipment, some team members reported symptoms: pressure in the chest, sense of unease, feeling of being observed. 3 researchers requested transfers off the project within a week. Dr. Yuki Tanaka conducted a comparative analysis that should have been routine, but left her deeply shaken. She compared the pulse to every biological rhythm in her database. Heartbeats from blue whales, elephants, even the seismic pulses some trees produce. The architectural similarities were undeniable. The spacing of harmonics, the regularity of intervals, she explained to Elliot one evening as they reviewed her findings alone in the lab. If I didn't know this was coming from inside Jupiter, if you played me this blind, I would have sworn it was organic. I would have said you'd discovered a living creature. Elliot's obsession deepened as the weeks passed. Time-lapse security footage showed him in the lab at all hours: 6 in the morning, midnight, 4 a.m. His appearance deteriorated, unshaven, exhausted, consumed. His wife Lisa noticed the change immediately. She had been married to him for 17 years and knew when something was wrong. He stopped coming to bed, she would later say in an interview, her voice thick with worry and residual fear. He'd sleep on the couch with his laptop, reviewing the same spectrograms over and over. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and find him sitting in the dark with headphones on, just listening. When I asked him what he was doing, he said he was trying to understand its language. She paused, remembering. That's when I knew something had changed. He didn't say understand the signal. He said understand its language, like he already believed it was trying to communicate. In July 2024, the team confronted the most profound question. How long had this been there? Dr. Alan Foster was a cosmologist from Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study, a thin man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses and a reputation for meticulous analysis. He led the dating study with the gravity of someone who understood they were standing at a pivotal moment in human history. The methodology was complex, but the principle was simple. Jupiter's magnetic field evolves over time, leaving traces like tree rings in wood. Juno's magnetometer data provided a record stretching back millions of years through anomalies in the field structure. The pulse signature appeared throughout the entire record, unchanged, constant, eternal. Alan's team cross-referenced their findings with computer models of Jupiter's magnetic field evolution over geological timescales. The models were sophisticated, accounting for solar wind effects, orbital mechanics, and internal dynamo variations. The conclusion hit like a physical blow. The pulse had existed for at least 3.7 billion years, potentially since Jupiter's formation 4.6 billion years ago. Alan presented the findings to the assembled team on July 19, 2024. He put up a timeline on the projection screen. Earth's history scrolled past in geological epochs. Modern humans appeared 200,000 years ago. Barely a flicker. The dinosaurs, 65 million years ago. First multicellular life, 600 million years ago. The first life on Earth, primitive bacteria, 3.7 billion years ago. The pulse predated all of it. We're talking about something that has been functioning continuously since the solar system was young, Alan said, his voice measured, but unable to hide the tremor beneath. Since Earth was a ball of molten rock being bombarded by asteroids. Whatever this is, it witnessed the birth of our planet. It was here first. The room was silent for a long time after that. Elliot sat at his workstation, staring at the timeline, his mind struggling to process the implications. That night he wrote in his journal, "Today, we confirmed what I've suspected for weeks. This isn't a discovery. It's an awakening. For 4.5 billion years, something has been down there, hidden in the crushing depths where nothing should survive. Beating, waiting. I used to look at Jupiter and see a planet. Now I see a cage, and I think we're about to learn what it's been keeping imprisoned." The summer of 2024 passed in a blur of analysis and growing dread. The team worked 16-hour days trying to understand what they had found, trying to prepare for whatever came next. But nothing could have prepared them for what happened on January the 11th, 2025. It was 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. The JPL Mission Control was running a skeleton night shift crew, monitoring Juno's telemetry as they did every night. Specialist Derek Morrow was on console duty, half awake with his third cup of coffee, watching the data stream scroll past on his monitors. Then he saw something that jolted him fully alert. The pulse timing had changed. For 9 months, the pulse had been absolutely constant, 4.31 seconds between beats, precise, unwavering, a metronome that had been ticking for billions of years. Now it was 4.18 seconds. Derek's hands fumbled for his phone. He called Elliot's home at 12:24 a.m. Pacific time, waking him from the first decent sleep he'd had in weeks. Elliot arrived at the lab within 38 minutes, still in sweatpants, hair disheveled, eyes wild. Security camera footage captured him bursting through the lab doors and going straight to the analysis station where Derek had the latest telemetry displayed. The change was small, 0.13 seconds, but statistically, impossibly, it couldn't be random. The pulse had been stable for at least 3.7 billion years. Nothing changed something that ancient without reason. Elliot's immediate reaction was captured on the security footage. He stood frozen, staring at the numbers, his face draining of colour. Then, barely audible, he whispered, "Oh God, it knows. It knows we're listening." Within 6 hours, an emergency meeting was convened. NASA administrator, deputy administrator, directors from every relevant division, and representatives from the Department of Defense. The decision was swift and absolute. Information lockdown, no public announcements, no press releases, all findings classified under National Security Decision Directive. Elliot's team expanded rapidly, 43 personnel within a week, all relocated to an isolated research facility in rural Nevada, a repurposed Cold War-era signals intelligence station surrounded by desert, miles from the nearest town. The security measures were extreme. Armed guards, biometric scanners, signal jammers preventing unauthorized communications. Researchers had their phones confiscated. Families were told they were working on classified solar weather prediction systems. The facility had the atmosphere of a prison more than a research center. Dr. Rebecca Mills was an astrophysicist, and Elliot's closest colleague. She'd worked with him for 8 years, trusted him, but even she started to worry about his mental state. The whole atmosphere changed after January 11th, she would later say in a secretly recorded interview. We weren't scientists anymore. We were prisoners. Guards watched us constantly. We couldn't tell our families where we were or what we were doing, and Elliot became someone else. He was convinced the acceleration wasn't random. He developed this theory that it was responding to us, that by listening, we'd somehow made contact. He started talking about it like it was aware of us, like it had been waiting billions of years for someone to hear it. Internal facility footage showed Elliot's declining state, pacing hallways at night, standing alone in the observation room, staring at spectrograms for hours without moving. His notebook pages became increasingly erratic, sketches of waveforms, repeatedly written phrases. It hears us. We woke it. Patient hunter. Then, on February 8th, 2025, at 1:43 in the afternoon, everything changed again. Juno's magnetometer array detected a second distinct pulse. Different location, 9,000 miles deep, 4,000 miles north of the original source. Different frequency, faster, higher pitched, pulsing every 3.7 seconds. The sound was like a response, a call and answer. Elliot's team worked frantically through the night, trying to understand what was happening. Then, in rapid succession, more pulses appeared. February 9th, 4:52 a.m. Third pulse detected. February 9th, 9:17 a.m. Fourth pulse. February 9th, 2:38 p.m. Fifth and sixth pulses simultaneously. By February 10th, 72 hours after the second pulse appeared, they had identified 12 distinct heartbeats scattered throughout Jupiter's interior. When they mapped the locations, a pattern emerged. The 12 sources weren't randomly distributed. They formed a geometric pattern, like points on a sphere. And despite being thousands of miles apart in one of the most turbulent environments in the solar system, they were synchronized. Michael Garrett overlaid all 12 pulses in a single audio file. The result was overwhelming, a chorus of massive organic rhythms, creating harmonics that seemed designed to resonate together. Dr. Yuki Tanaka listened to the composite audio with tears streaming down her face. "This is coordination," she said, her voice breaking. "This is communication. 12 separate sources maintaining perfect synchronization across thousands of miles. The precision required is beyond our technology. It's beyond our understanding of physics." The Nevada facility descended into controlled chaos. Researchers argued. Some cried. Others refused to continue working. Federal agents arrived to manage personnel who wanted to leave. The word manage was never clearly defined, but everyone understood the implication. Elliot's journal entry from February 11th captured his spiraling thoughts. "It's not alone down there. It was never alone. For billions of years they've been there. A network of something vast and ancient that we don't have words for. We found something that shouldn't exist according to every law of nature we know. And I think, God help me, I think we've woken them up. The others don't see it yet, but I do. The acceleration, the emergence of the others, it started when we began really listening, when we turned Juno's full sensor suite toward them. They know we're here now. They've been waiting in the dark, and we just turned on a light." In March 2025, the situation evolved from disturbing to terrifying. Juno's seismic sensors detected movement. The sources weren't drifting randomly through Jupiter's interior. They were ascending, rising deliberately towards the upper atmosphere. Current depth between 7,000 and 11,000 miles down. Rate of ascent 3.2 miles per hour. Constant, unwavering, purposeful. Dr. Raymond Vasquez ran the trajectory calculations, his hands shaking as he presented the results. "At current rate," he said, his voice hollow, "they reach the transition zone between metallic and liquid hydrogen in 5 months. Upper atmosphere in 8 months. That puts them at the cloud tops by November 2025. He paused, then added quietly, "Right now." Emergency briefings were held at the Pentagon. Military brass and scientists argued about strategies, protocols, contingencies. What do you do when something ancient and incomprehensible rises from the depths of a gas giant? How do you prepare for contact with entities that have existed since before your planet had life? Elliot advocates passionately for public disclosure. People have a right to know, he argued in a tense meeting with NASA officials and Defense Department representatives. These things have existed longer than our species, longer than our civilization. Whatever happens when they reach the surface, humanity deserves to face it with knowledge, not ignorance. The Director of National Intelligence, a severe woman named Catherine Wells, shut him down immediately. Public panic serves no purpose. We maintain operational security until we understand what we're dealing with. This discussion is over. Elliot became increasingly isolated within the facility, too emotionally compromised, too willing to break protocol. His security clearance was restricted. He was barred from certain meetings, watched constantly. On March 28th, he attempted to leak information to a journalist contact. He was caught before the email sent. They detained him in his quarters under armed guard for 72 hours. Rebecca Mills saw him when they finally let him out. She said he was different, quiet, defeated, but his eyes had a look like he'd seen something in his mind that broke him. Late one night, she found him alone in the observation room, staring at the latest spectral analyses on the monitors. The facility was quiet. Most of the staff had gone to sleep. It was just the two of them and the low hum of equipment. "I've been having the same dream every night for weeks," Elliot said without looking at her, his voice distant, hollow. "I dream that Jupiter's atmosphere parts like eyelids, and 12 massive eyes look out at Earth. They've always been there, always watching, just waiting for the right moment to be seen." Rebecca didn't know what to say. Elliot turned to her then, and she was struck by how haunted he looked, how much older he seemed than just a year ago. "Do you think it's possible," he asked, "for something to exist that's so fundamentally different from us, that contact would be like an ant trying to comprehend human civilization?" Before she could answer, he continued, "What if the scariest thing isn't that they're hostile? What if the scariest thing is that they don't even notice we exist?" The question hung in the air between them. In late October, someone managed to smuggle a camera into the facility and film Elliot in his quarters. The footage was grainy, shot from a hidden angle, but his words were clear. "I've spent my career studying Jupiter's magnetic field," he said, speaking directly to the hidden camera. "I thought I was investigating a planet, but Jupiter isn't a planet. It's a womb, or maybe a prison. Something has been developing down there, or sleeping, or waiting. 12 somethings. And we're about to witness a birth that's billions of years in the making." He paused, rubbing his eyes. "I can't tell you what I've seen in the latest spectral analyses. They won't let me. But I can tell you this, every night I lie awake and I hear them. Not with my ears. It's like they're in my head. 12 heartbeats getting stronger, getting closer." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "And underneath them all, there's something else. A 13th pulse so deep and so slow that we almost missed it. It beats once every 9 hours, and it's not moving. It's at Jupiter's core. The others are rising towards it, not away from it. They're not escaping. They're gathering." The implications of what he was saying crashed over whoever was filming. The camera shook slightly. "Whatever happens," Elliot said, "I need people to know we tried to warn them. We tried to prepare. But some things are too old, too vast, too alien for preparation to mean anything." As the months passed, the scientific community struggled to understand what they were dealing with. Dr. Alan Foster, the cosmologist from Princeton, offered one perspective. The question, "What are they?" assumes they fit into categories we understand. Living or non-living, conscious or unconscious, material or energy. What if they're none of these things? What if they're something so fundamentally alien that our brains can't properly conceptualize them? Dr. Yuki Tanaka from SETI had spent her career preparing for the moment humanity would make contact with extraterrestrial life. She had imagined radio signals, microbes on Mars, perhaps structures on distant exoplanets. "I never imagined we'd find something ancient living inside our own solar system's largest planet," she said in an interview. "These entities, if that's even the right word, evolved or emerged in conditions that would annihilate anything from Earth in microseconds. They exist at pressures and temperatures where matter itself behaves differently. They might not be carbon-based. They might not have DNA or cells or anything we'd recognize as biological architecture. They could be vast consciousness fields or living magnetic structures or something we literally don't have the physics to describe yet. Dr. Raymond Vasquez offered another possibility, one that kept him awake at night. What if they're not from Jupiter at all? What if they're older than Jupiter? The solar system formed from a massive molecular cloud, the solar nebula. What if these things existed in that cloud, and when Jupiter coalesced, they were trapped inside? They could be remnants of something that predates our sun itself. 4.6 billion years is just their imprisonment, not their origin. Elliot had his own theory, recorded in leaked audio from the facility. We classify everything as living or not living, conscious or unconscious. It's a binary system built by apes who evolved in one gravity well with one narrow range of temperature and pressure. These things have existed in conditions we considered incompatible with any form of organized structure. What does that tell you? It tells you our definitions are parochial, provincial. We're looking at them through a keyhole and trying to describe a cathedral. Maybe they're not alive in any sense we understand, but they're not dead either. Maybe consciousness doesn't require neurons. Maybe heartbeats don't require hearts. The religious implications were profound. Father Domenico Benedetti, a Vatican astronomer, said, "If confirmed, this would be the most significant theological event since the crucifixion. Life, or something like life, that predates Earth, that existed when the universe was young. It challenges nothing in scripture and everything in our assumptions." Philosophy professor Dr. Amira Hassan from Oxford offered a sobering perspective. We've built our entire worldview on the assumption that Earth is special, that life is rare, that consciousness is a cosmic accident that happened here and maybe nowhere else. If there are ancient beings in Jupiter, beings that have existed for billions of years, what does that say about our place in the universe? We're not the inheritors of creation. We're newcomers, infants, and something unimaginably old is waking up in our cosmic backyard. Today is November 12th, 2025. NASA's public face remains unchanged. Their website shows routine Juno mission updates. The latest press release from November 8th reads, "Juno spacecraft continues to return valuable data about Jupiter's atmospheric composition and magnetic field structure, all systems nominal." There is no mention of pulses, no mention of anomalies, no mention of anything rising from the depths. Public information officers deflect questions with rehearsed responses. The Juno mission is proceeding as planned, and all data falls within expected parameters. We have no information regarding unusual findings at this time, but cracks are appearing in the facade. Amateur astronomers worldwide have documented changes in Jupiter's appearance over the past 6 months. High-quality telescope footage shows the Great Red Spot developing unusual pulsing variations, brightness fluctuations that occur every 4 seconds. Storm systems across Jupiter's northern hemisphere have begun moving in synchronized patterns. Reddit forums, astronomy, Discord servers, and YouTube channels buzz with speculation. Something is happening at Jupiter, and people are starting to notice. David Kowalski is an amateur astronomer in Ohio who's been photographing Jupiter for 30 years. "Something is different," he said, and in a recent video posted to his YouTube channel. "The storm patterns are organizing in ways I've never seen. It's subtle, but it's there. And NASA won't comment on it, which tells me they know something they're not sharing." Investigative journalist Claire Ashton has been tracking the story for 3 months. She's identified the Nevada facility through FAA flight records and satellite imagery. She's documented that dozens of JPL scientists have been unreachable since February. FOIA requests for Juno mission data have been denied on national security grounds, unprecedented for a civilian scientific mission. Something is happening at Jupiter, Claire said in her podcast last week, and the government is covering it up. The question is whether they're trying to prevent panic or whether they're afraid of something. Most disturbing is the case of Dr. Elliot Crane. He hasn't been seen publicly since March 30th. His wife Lisa filed a missing persons report on April 15th. The FBI closed the case after 2 days, citing national security matters. Lisa agreed to an interview filmed in her Pasadena home. She looked exhausted, frightened. "They told me he's alive and safe and working on classified research," she said, her voice trembling. "But they won't let me speak to him. They won't tell me where he is. The last time I saw my husband, he looked haunted. He said something was coming, something we weren't ready for. Then men in suits showed up and took him away." As this documentary reaches its conclusion, those 12 heartbeats continue to rise through Jupiter's interior. At last calculation, they are between 2,000 and 3,000 miles from the upper atmosphere. At their current rate, they will reach the cloud tops within the next 72 hours. Computer simulations show what might occur. Jupiter's atmosphere could experience massive upwelling, storms thousands of miles wide forming at the emergence points. Or nothing visible might happen at all. Whatever emerges might exist outside our perceptual range, beyond what our instruments can detect, beyond what our minds can process. The final piece of footage we have of Elliot Crane was recorded covertly sometime in late October. He's in a sparse room looking exhausted but intense, speaking directly to a hidden camera. "For my entire career, we've searched for life beyond Earth," he says. "We built the SETI array to listen for radio signals from distant civilizations. We sent probes to Mars, looking for bacteria. We pointed telescopes at exoplanets, hoping to find oxygen in their atmospheres. We looked outward, always outward, into the distant reaches of space." He leans forward. "But we never looked down. We never considered that the most ancient intelligence in our solar system might be hiding inside the most obvious place, the biggest planet, right here in our cosmic backyard. Jupiter has been staring at us for all of human history, and something has been looking back from inside it. His eyes are haunted, but there's something else there too, a kind of terrible understanding. They've been there longer than Earth has had continents, longer than Earth has had oceans. They watched our planet cool and solidify. They were there when the first amino acids formed in Earth's primordial seas. They've witnessed every extinction, every evolution, every rise and fall of every species that's ever lived on our world. And now, after 4.5 billion years of patience, they're coming to the surface." He pauses, choosing his words carefully. "I don't know what they want. I don't know if they even think in terms of wants. But I know this. We spent centuries looking for intelligence in the universe, and we found it. We just didn't realize we'd been living next door to it all along." His face fills the frame, eyes reflecting something between terror and awe. "By the time you see this, they'll be at the cloud tops, and we're about to learn whether they've been waiting for us, or whether we've been living on borrowed time in a universe that belonged to them first." The final footage comes from a ground-based observatory. The timestamp reads November 12th, 2025, 8:43 p.m. Jupiter dominates the view, its bands of clouds swirling in mesmerizing patterns. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the clouds near the Great Red Spot begin to organize. Storm systems across the visible hemisphere start pulsing in synchronized rhythm. The Great Red Spot itself seems to dilate, expanding and contracting like a pupil. Deep within Jupiter's clouds, barely visible on the enhanced image, 12 points of light are scattered across the visible hemisphere, arranged in geometric pattern, brightening. All 12 pulses play simultaneously now, harmonizing into a sound that feels ancient and purposeful. The frequency begins to accelerate. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. On November 15th, 2025, at 3:47 a.m. Universal Time, the Juno spacecraft's radio transmission ceased. NASA lost all contact with the probe. No signal has been received since. Jupiter's atmospheric disturbances continue to intensify. Dr. Elliot Crane's current location and status remain classified. The pulses continue. Recent photographs of Jupiter show something different. The great red spot has developed a spiral pattern that resembles an eye. 12 smaller storm systems surround it, each pulsing with internal lightning in perfect synchronization. The heartbeat audio plays one final time, now at 1 beat per second. Fast. Urgent. It sounds like something waking up, and then there's silence, 5 seconds of complete silence. Then a single deep pulse, deeper and slower than all the others combined. The 13th heartbeat from Jupiter's core. They rise to meet it.